Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into the chilling details of literally the single largest unsolved art theft in world history. We are looking at a crime that completely stripped $500 million of cultural heritage from the walls in just a matter of minutes. And what did it leave behind? Nothing but empty frames, shattered peace of mind, and honestly, decades of absolute dead ends. All right, let's just drop right into the scene. Picture the quiet, completely dark streets of Boston on March 18, 1990. The whole city is totally exhausted from St. Patrick's Day weekend celebrations, so the streets are totally empty. And at exactly 1:24 a.m., two men, dressed head to toe in Boston police uniforms, walk up to a side entrance door of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum and ring the buzzer. Inside, you've got this young, minimum-wage security guard who walks over to the intercom. He checks the monitor, sees the police uniforms, and makes a fateful, split-second decision to trust them. He buzzes them in. And guys, what follows is just mind-boggling. Those thieves pulled off an 81-minute heist. No alarms were triggered, zero shots fired, absolutely no one stopped them. $500 million gone. Just like that, sparking a mystery that remains 100% unsolved to this day. Part 1. Isabella Gardner's Dying Wish. Now, to really grasp why this crime was such a devastating, irreversible blow, you kind of have to understand Isabella Gardner's dying wish, which was written right into her will. She demanded this incredibly strict legal stipulation that absolutely nothing inside the museum could ever be moved, sold, loaned, or rearranged. Every single object had to remain exactly where she placed it, forever. Meaning, when those thieves broke in, they weren't just stealing art. They were stealing history that the museum was legally bound to never, ever replace. Moving on to part 2, 81 minutes in the dark. The very second those two fake cops stepped through the door, the ruse was completely over. This is a robbery, they told the guards. And if you look at the timeline here, it is just chillingly methodical. 1:24 a.m., the buzzer rings. Mere minutes later, both of the guards are handcuffed, duct-taped over their eyes and mouths, and tied to pipes in a pitch-black basement. Then, for a full 81 minutes, the thieves just calmly walk through the museum. They are literally slicing centuries-old canvases straight out of their frames with a blade. Finally, at 2:45 a.m., they walk out. No alarms, no witnesses. These guys navigated the museum like they had been there 100 times before. They didn't rush at all. They bypassed the alarms and completely ignored hundreds of other pieces to target this staggering, very specific list of masterpieces. Look at what they took. Rembrandt's only known seascape from 1633, Vermeer's The Concert, 5 sketches by Degas, a Monet painting, and weirdly enough, a small bronze eagle that once belonged to Napoleon Bonaparte himself. So, here's the really crucial point. Out of an entire palace, practically bursting at the seams with art, they took exactly 13 items in total. Just 13. But make no mistake, the cultural devastation of that incredibly targeted list is almost impossible for us to comprehend. Those 13 items carried an estimated value of $500 million. I mean, let that number really sink in for a second. It creates a stark, almost tragic contrast, right? $500 million carried quietly right out the side door, while 2 minimum wage guards were left crying in the basement below. And just to put the absolute rarity of this loss into perspective for you, consider Vermeer's The Concert. At the time, this was one of only 34 known Vermeers to exist in the entire world. When you steal something that incredibly rare, you aren't just stealing a physical object. You're literally erasing a fraction of humanity's finest achievements. Which brings us to part 3, a trail gone cold. You would honestly think a crime of this staggering magnitude would leave a massive trail, right? Well, the investigation was immensely frustrating right from the jump. Despite having motion sensor data tracking the thieves' exact footsteps room by room, it told investigators absolutely nothing about who they actually were. The FBI just hit wall after wall. They looked into the Irish mob, with informants claiming the art was used as underworld collateral by Whitey Bulger's crew, totally unproven. They chased down tips on the Italian mafia from New York to Philly to Connecticut, and those leads died out completely. There was even this mysterious art dealer who stepped forward, claiming he could broker a quiet, no-questions-asked recovery deal. And then, he went completely silent, just vanished into thin air. So years literally turned into decades. The FBI kept the case open, exhausting every single tip they got, from prison informants to art world insiders. It took exactly 23 years before the FBI finally called a press conference in March 2013 with a stunning announcement. At that press conference, they confidently stated that they had identified the New England criminals responsible for the theft, but they refused to release any names. They revealed their beliefs that the art had been traded over the decades, basically like underworld currency, passed across state and maybe even international lines, meaning after 23 long years, the trail had frozen ice cold. And this brings us to the absolute darkest possibility, the one that art historians genuinely dread even discussing out loud. Did the criminals eventually realize that these incredibly famous works were just impossible to sell openly? Stolen art of this caliber is a massive, massive liability. So did they simply destroy 5 centuries of human creativity just to eliminate the evidence? The thought of a 1633 Rembrandt seascape burning in someone's backyard is truly chilling. Part 4, the empty frames. That haunting question really shifts our focus from the stolen works themselves, the MacGuffins of this real-life mystery, to what was actually left behind. Remember Isabella Gardner's super rigid will forbidding anything to be moved? Well, because of that stipulation, visitors to the museum today are stopped cold by this sight. Empty, silent gold frames hanging exactly where they were in 1990, surrounding nothing but a blank wall. They serve as this permanent, very physical memorial to what was taken from us all. But the museum has not given up hope. Even today, they are offering a staggering $10 million reward for any information leading to the art's recovery. But still, over 30 years have passed without a single painting coming home. And then, of course, there's the human element behind all this history. Rickaboth, that young minimum wage guard who opened the door that night, has had to live publicly with the crushing weight of that split-second decision. 1 second, one buzzer, one choice. He trusted those police uniforms for a single moment, and it literally altered the course of art history forever. So, as we wrap up this explainer on the largest unsolved art theft in human history, I want to leave you with this final, really provocative thought. Where are the paintings today? Are these priceless masterpieces hidden away in some forgotten basement, rolled up and just waiting to be found by someone who has absolutely no idea what they hold? Or were they destroyed decades ago, lost to us forever?